At First Rounds on Me, we believe that one real date is better than 100 pen pals. With our mobile dating app, we make it fun and easy for you to meet someone in person for a real date. See someone you're interested in? We help plan your date. Pick a drink, a time, a venue, and send that person a date invite. It's that simple. You only get one confirmed date per day. Give your full attention to one person at a time so you can actually get to know each other in person. Our key differentiators allow you to focus on what's most important: dating with intention and connecting with someone in person. Once your date is confirmed, you only get 12 hours to chat before your date starts. If you're tired of the endless small talk with pen pals on other dating apps, First Rounds on Me is for you.
Welcome back to Crowdsourcing Love. Today I have Andrew Yeung here with me. Hi, Andrew.
Hi,
How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Happy Wednesday. So Andrew is a founder of, you do like mixers. How would you describe yourself? You're in the tech space,
hmm
but I want you to introduce yourself.
Yeah, so my day job is a tech operator. I'm a global product lead at Google.
Okay.
I used to work at Meta as the North America strategy and ops lead. And then my night job is throwing parties and events for people in tech. So like tech CEOs, investors, operators, creators, that kind of thing.
Amazing. So you're originally from Hong Kong. What brought you to the US? And yeah, tell us about that kind of story for coming over here.
Yeah, so I was born in Hong Kong. I spent
Mhm.
about 18 years in Hong Kong, Taiwan, and Shanghai,
Mm-hmm.
so in Asia. And then I moved to Canada, spent 7 years there, school, and my first job. And during COVID, I was like, I had this like, uh, I guess quarter life crisis, and I was like,
Ooh.
I've always wanted to live in New York City.
Okay.
So I made the leap to work for Facebook in New York. That leap wasn't easy because you needed to get a visa. You need to like network your way in, which is what we're talking about today.
Yeah.
But once I got here, I was like, this is perfect. This is the right place for me.
So you always dreamed of coming to New York, and then you're like, I just have to do it. It's now
Yeah,
or never type of thing?
yeah, something like that. And I was burnt out from my first job.
Mhm.
And I was really bored of Canada. It was cold. I didn't really dig the social scene. Like dating was hard,
Okay.
making friends was hard. So I was like, time for a change. And what could be better? Because I'd lived in, I've been spoiled to be able to live in so many great cities,
Yeah.
Hong Kong, Shanghai, some of the biggest cities in the world. So I'm like, what's next? And I remember as a child seeing like Times Square and TV and
Mhm.
like all the hype around New York. So I was like,
Yeah.
let's do New York.
And it's lived up to your expectations.
It's exceeded my
Amazing.
expectations.
That okay, and you said you came from Canada, not Asia.
I did Asia first. So I was
Okay.
born in Hong Kong,
Okay.
and then I lived in Canada for a bit. And I chose Canada because my dad has a Canadian passport,
Mm.
and so it's just like cheaper and easier to go there.
Yeah, so we're in Canada?
Toronto,
Okay, and you lived there for how long?
7 years.
What'd you think of the Toronto scene?
Mm, well, my Toronto friends might be watching, but it's sort of like a smaller version of New York City. It's like
Okay.
it might be like New York light in a way. It's a good starter if you want to go to New York. I mean, the dating, there was like mediocre. The career, there's a ceiling to most of the careers. Like tech companies are mostly run out of Silicon Valley in New York City.
Mhm.
So there's a limit to your career, and there's a limit to sort of how broad you can build your social circle. So I felt it was a little bit limiting.
Mm.
And I'd always lived, globally, so I always thought there was something else out.
So you moved here not knowing anyone. How did you make your initial relationships when you moved to the city?
Yeah, so I actually had a few friends here when I moved here,
Oh, you did?
but a lot of them had left. There was a
Mm.
mass exodus. So
Yep.
some of my closest friends moved to Chicago, LA, and then some just middle of nowhere, Atlanta. So when I landed, I had like maybe one friend I was close with,
Yeah.
and he took me around, which is great. But I thought to myself, the reason I came to New York City is not really just to reach out to old high school friends or like stay in my comfortable circle. It was really expand for
Mhm.
career and life. Um, how I met the first, let's say, 50 to 100 people was LinkedIn.
Okay.
It was Reddit. It was Twitter. I didn't have like a Twitter following at all at this point, so it was just me messaging people and being like, "Hey, I'm in tech. You're in tech. Let's meet up and talk about tech." It's a very specific kind of like way
Mhm.
of meeting people, but it was
Yep.
all these online platforms.
Okay, so how do you meet people on Reddit? I've never heard of that.
So there's a subreddit called, I think it's NYC Meetups,
Mhm.
and it's got like tens of thousands of people. It's
Oh.
mostly just people who are like lonely and want to meet other people. But I posted and I was like, hey, I just moved here. Here are a few details about my background. Who wants to hang out or who wants to join this meetup? I'm hosting something.
Mhm.
At this point, all the bars and restaurants were closed because COVID. So we did it at Central Park. And one of the first Reddit meetups I did had 100 people. And that just spoke to me in terms of how isolated and lonely and, what there was a yearning for like social interaction.
Yeah.
But yeah, Reddit, you can just post stuff and be like, who wants to hang out?
Okay. So Reddit is like a scary place for me because in the influencer space, I only like pay attention to like the negative side of it, but I
Mhm.
under like it sounds like there's also like a really positive community building side to the platform.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. I think like with your profile, it depends on your
Mhm.
profile as well. Like you
Okay.
could, you might attract the wrong type of people.
Right.
Like Reddit is mostly like male, and it's like male kind of,
Okay.
I would describe the Reddit persona as like geekier, techier
Mhm.
people. And so I don't know if that's your vibe, but that's at first is who I got along with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then same with Twitter. I feel like I'm not currently on Twitter because I find it to be like a little bit scary with my line of work where
Yeah.
like people are a little bit more savage. But it sounds like there's also a good side to Twitter, or is it like it's kind of just like you have to have thick skin to be there?
So I like Twitter because of the world I'm in, which is some of the most notable investors
Mhm.
and even founders in the world are off Twitter.
Okay.
So for example, people who have followed me off Twitter and then come to my events. One of them is like the co-founder of Duolingo, who just randomly followed me, and then we connected there.
Okay.
Last night I just spoke with the founder of Bonobos, Andy Dunn, and he was like, "I just found you on Twitter, and I wanted to speak with you." So it's
Okay.
like all these CEOs are just on Twitter, just lurking, and I think they like it because there's a degree of like you can be anonymous on it.
Mhm.
And so I think if you were to get on Twitter, and I feel like you have hot takes on dating in New York City, and you
Mhm.
stayed fairly anonymous, you could really crush it on Twitter.
Oh, maybe I'll do it.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm like open to Twitter. I'm just like a little bit like, what's the vibe? How do you grow a Twitter following?
So you either have to provide value by being really funny.
Mhm.
So you could probably do that with your,
Oh, thank you. Wow, he called me funny already. Thank you.
being funny, being insightful.
Okay.
So there's this term called, I think, thread boy,
Mm.
sort of like a meme word, which is people just post like, here are the 10 things I learned but from starting a $10 million business, and then those threads go viral,
Yep.
or providing value in some other way. And for me, it was like I didn't really, I'm not that funny, and I don't, I'm not that smart. I don't have stuff to write about, but I'm really good at bringing people together. So a lot
Mhm.
of people, my following isn't huge. I think it's like 32K right now,
Yeah.
but most of them are in New York City, and most of them are like tech CEOs, and they follow me because they want to go to the events. And so that's the value I bring. So it's just understanding what value you can share with everyone else and then just putting out there consistently the same way, you've grown your IG. I saw this really interesting infographic, which is every medium, every social media platform rewards a certain type of emotion. And so
Oh.
like Instagram is like you want to see things that like look nice and visually appealing,
Uh-huh.
and then Twitter rewards like wit. That's what
Mm.
goes really viral. LinkedIn is like, it's like praise and you want to feel good about yourself. So you see all those cringy LinkedIn posts that I definitely am guilty of doing. But and then TikTok is sort of like visual as well. But everyone sort of has a strength in one of these platforms, and
Yep.
that's your core strength.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. So you have an iconic cold DM strategy that's worked for you to meet many people. Can you tell us about this cold DM and like how you kind of craft it, who you send it to, etc.?
Yeah, I have the recipe on my website somewhere, but it's something along the lines of when you send someone a cold DM, and so many people don't get this, which is sort of bizarre to me, but the first sentence needs a hook,
Mhm.
especially if you're emailing like. So one of my first cold emails was like the CTO of Facebook when I
Mhm.
first joined Boz, and it's like a hook, like why should he keep reading and keep like scrolling down to the email? The second thing is like introduce yourself, but do it in a way that is concise, but also like shows some sort of social proof. So for
Mhm.
example, like you have like 40,000 followers or
Mhm.
something like that, and I've done
Yeah.
this and this. So they keep reading. It's sort of like a journey. They keep reading, and then it's here's why I'm reaching out. Here's why it's relevant to you. And you should normally have done a bit of homework. So for
Mhm.
Boz, I was like, I read through every single article you wrote on your blog, and these are the three that resonate with me, and here's why. And then you go into like the ask, which
Mhm.
is, a lot of people connect with me, and and I'm sure you get this too. it's like, hey, I just want to connect, or hey, I just want to like get to know you. And that
Yep.
doesn't really mean anything. You have to be really specific, which is, hey, I want 15 minutes of your time. I want to potentially invest in your company. I want to meet up for coffee for 45 minutes to talk about X. And
Mhm.
so in their head, it's really tangible. And then lastly, you end with like genuine praise. I admire
Yep.
what you're doing, and here's why. It's not just like love what you're doing. You have to add some specific things to make them know that you did your homework.
Yeah. And that, yeah, you're taking them seriously and you're not just going to go there and be like,
Right.
have nothing to ask or offer.
Yeah.
Because people do ask me for meetings now, and I'm like willing to give back to the community. Of course, I love to like help people, but they have to like have done their homework. Otherwise, to
Totally.
me, it's just like it feels like a time suck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. But do you feel like you should have to pay for mentorship?
Pay for mentorship.
Or have you heard
Hmm.
of that?
Yeah, there are platforms like Intro, which you can pay for like this guy Nikita Beer, sold this company,
Mm-hmm.
and you could pay for like $1,000 for 15 minutes of his time.
Oh, wow.
And everyone's on it. Alexis Ohanian found on Reddit, like everyone's on it.
Okay.
I don't know how well those platforms do. I'm sure
Mhm.
they make a good amount of money, but I think like real mentorship is authentic and genuine. There's some sort of like um, value exchange beyond money.
Mm-hmm.
All my mentors, I've never paid for a mentor. I've actually never really heard of that. But they're all like quick transactional things that you can pay for. But no, in the long term, I think your mentor should be someone who's invested in your
Mm-hmm.
growth in
Yeah.
yourself, and there doesn't need to be like money transacted.
Okay. So you feel like with your mentors, you haven't really paid them. You've more so had a long-term relationship with them.
Um, yeah, they want to see me win.
Mm-hmm.
They're there for me when I'm in my lows, and vice versa.
Okay. And then do you have any mentees?
I used to have more.
Okay.
But I guess I do. Yeah, I have a few mentees. I don't know if I consider him mentee. I sort of hired someone for my new company who's my chief of staff,
Mm-hmm.
and he's like a few years younger, but he's brilliant and helps me in every other way. And um, I give him my time and I give him access to things. So his name's Jacob. He's probably like my new mentee. I don't know if he would consider that a mentee mentor relationship, but
Yeah.
big fan of him.
Okay, cool. Okay, so with like the cold DM, the reaching out, how often do you follow up? So, like, for example, let's say that somebody doesn't get back to you the first time, and this has happened from my perspective where people have reached out to me
Hmm.
and I like read the DM, but I was in the middle of doing something and then I lost it because I get so many DMs per day. And then they'll reach back out, and I'm actually so grateful that they followed up because I'm like, oh my God, I lost them in my DMs, but now they're back to the top because they followed up. So, I think the follow up is really important. What are your thoughts on the follow up?
I completely agree with you. It's all
Mm-hmm.
about the follow up.
Yep.
I think you can follow up. I guess some people don't have the social cues necessarily, but you
Mm-hmm.
follow up like once. It depends on the situation, but once like a week or once every 4 weeks, depending on
Mm-hmm.
your relationship. Um, the key is to always include an opt out. So even if you follow up 4 times, you're like, hey, I'm sorry, sorry if I'm bugging you, but if you don't want me to send you emails anymore, just let me know and I'll take you off my list.
Okay.
So you can always have an opt out, which is like
I love
considerate.
that
Yeah,
because it shows that you're thinking about them and you have social awareness and you're not
totally.
just trying to like copy paste send, copy paste send.
Right.
Even if you are, just like craft it in a way where it looks a little bit more personalized
Yeah.
with the follow up.
Yeah.
So what's the difference between opening lines on like sliding into someone's DM professionally and sliding into someone's DM romantically?
Huh. Um, I was never good at the sliding into someone's DMs romantically, I don't think.
Really?
Is this like the first encounter? Like the first time you slide into
Yeah, like
someone's
you
DMs?
see someone online, you like their profile, they seem pretty or interesting or whatever, and you're like, I want to take this person on a date. You're in a relationship
Mm,
now, but we're just saying
right.
hypothetically.
Yeah, I was never really good at that stuff.
Okay.
I think for the longest time I didn't like prioritize dating enough to think that intentionally about like here's my playbook for sliding into someone's DMs.
Mm-hmm.
My philosophy is always for dating for the longest time, and I guess still is um, build the life that you want, and communicate the values that represent you,
Mm-hmm.
and be a magnet for the people that you want to attract. So for dating, I was like, um, if I just do my thing and I give value to other people, and I build something incredible, I will attract the right type of woman into
Mm-hmm.
my life, and that's proven true so far.
I
And so
love
it's
that.
less like cold DMing a bunch of bunch of girls. It's more like who comes within my orbit and how can I reach out to them in a respectful way and sort of bring them into my life.
Okay, so I love that you use the word respectful. I also love that you're like using the word magnet. Sounds like you don't chase, you attract.
Mhm.
So when it came to your current girlfriend, did you reach out to her or did she reach out to you?
So the story is she DM'd me on Twitter about 10 months ago.
Okay.
And I have this really exclusive event series that you should definitely come to. It's called
Mm-hmm.
Junto Club.
Okay.
And she DM'd me a few paragraphs and she's like, I'd love to come. Here's who I am. It was a really good cold DM.
Okay.
Here's who I am. I'm a founder. I dropped out of school. I would love to come because of X, Y, and Z.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're full, I will help clean up and I'll help set up and I'll do all these things.
I love her energy.
She's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, at that point, I was like very strict on and I'm like, it was full,
I love that you're strict. You're like, no.
I was like, I'm so sorry. It's full,
Mm-hmm.
but I'd love to have you next time.
Okay.
And then 6 months later, she came to the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
So did she continue to follow up or did you then follow her and follow up with her?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I don't remember.
I love the details.
I think it was something along the lines of like, a few months later, I invited some friends of mine to like a investor event,
Okay.
and they met her there. And they were like, "Oh, this girl is really interesting. You should invite her to your Junto Club." And I
Okay.
did.
Yep.
And I met her, and I was like, "Oh, she's like one extraordinary and very smart and very
Mhm.
interesting, but two, like really cute."
Yeah.
So from there, I was like, then I reached out.
Okay, cool. I love that. That's a really cute origin story. How long have you guys been dating?
Officially a month.
Oh, wow. So it's
Um,
relatively new.
it's very new, and then
Okay.
unofficially, a few months.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how soon into it did you know that this is going to be my girlfriend?
I would say a few months in, like the exactly the timing that we went on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah.
Okay. And was she initially interested in you romantically, or was she just interested in like networking? She liked the work you were doing. She wanted to join the club. Do you know her original motives?
It's funny because we talked about this, and we actually we spent the last few days together in a retreat upstate,
Okay.
and we went through all our old texts because
Oh, I
we were
love
just bored.
this.
We had nothing to do, and we
Yeah.
were like, "What were you thinking when you texted me this?"
Mm-hmm.
We went through every single one going
Yeah.
back the last 6 months, and initially it was very professional.
Yep.
It was professional, and then it became like friends. Like this guy's kind of interesting from her perspective. I think that's
Yeah.
how it went. And then I think I was like the first one to be romantically interested.
Mm-hmm.
So I like asked her to dinner, like at first like kind of a networking dinner,
Mm-hmm.
and it slowly became more flirty over texts and DMs, and then she became romantically interested.
Okay. So it was like a slow burn.
It was a slow transition.
So I love the idea of like meeting somebody, becoming friends, sussing them out, and then
Mhm.
being like, oh, there is a spark here.
Yeah, I think that's how I've always done it. Why
Okay.
dating apps don't really work for me.
Mm.
I don't feel a strong connection because I think friends first. You get to know someone somewhat deeply,
Mm-hmm.
and then when you're ready to sort of make the switch from friends to something more,
Yeah.
you just do that.
So many people worry about that transition because they're like, I value this person so much as a friend.
Mhm.
If it goes wrong romantically, I'm going to lose the friend. What do you say to those people?
Well, I think if they're worth it, if you go with your gut and you're like there could be something here, because I
Mhm.
went through that process. I texted her.
Yeah.
Actually, what I said was, this was after I think like a few weeks or maybe a month of like being friends.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I've really enjoyed like this friendship.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you want to hang out again? But here's the thing. I would love for the next time we hang out to be like a date.
Okay.
And if you're down for it, let's do this. If you're not, like I'd still love to be friends. Let's do this.
Yeah.
And I suggested something different. I think you just got to take the leap, trust your gut, and if it doesn't work out, give them like, give an opt out, which is you still be friends. We probably just wouldn't go to dinner and a movie together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That's really cute. I love that you though took the initiative to be like, hey, like let's make the next hangout a date.
Mhm.
Because I think it's like weird if you don't say that intention and then you just start like hooking up.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I'm like a little bit more old fashioned where I'm like, no, like ask her on a date
Right.
and then make the transition. Don't start physically.
Yeah. Yeah. I like some sort of certainty or like lack of like no ambiguity
Yes.
before going in because it's kind of weird and yeah, I
And
feel
I
you.
think that's what ruins the friendship is the
Hmm.
ambiguity.
Totally.
hmm Okay, so you talk about I've listened to a lot of your past stuff to prepare for this.
Oh
So
wow, thank you.
you talk about relationship building principles. So how do you do that? How do you use relationship building principles to build out your network and what are they, I guess?
Yeah, so when I started, I didn't have a network when I came here,
Mhm.
and I've built that over time to
Yeah.
a network quite large. And a way I've done that is honestly just giving.
Mhm.
And I know that's really ambiguous, but the power of meeting. So I was lucky. I started in a time where everyone was taking meetings because they were lonely and there's no social activity happening.
Mhm.
And every person I met, I'd
Yeah.
be like, "What's missing from your life?
Mhm.
What are you trying to do next?" And I try to understand how I could help. And the way you help someone is the easiest way is if you're meeting a lot of people, you just sort of connect them with each other,
Mhm.
especially in this world of like founders are looking for investors and investors are looking for founders.
Mhm.
That was really easy to make those connections. And
Yeah.
then it becomes like people who are hiring and people looking for jobs. That was really easy as well. There's so many examples like that. So I would just connect people at scale
Mhm.
and I would never ask for anything in return. I
Mhm.
was lucky that I worked at a company that paid well. So I didn't need there was no financial motive.
Right.
And then over time, I did that at scale with with my media platform, with my events.
Mhm.
Um, and I just never asked for anything because never, I actually, one of my friends, I helped him close a pretty large deal, and
Mhm.
he's like, "Do you want 10%? It's a lot of money." I'm like, "No, I just can we just have coffee? Because I just want to learn about how you've built what you've built. That's the reason I did
Yeah.
it for you."
Mhm.
And when you do that over time, and when that becomes your mindset, your network will automatically grow, and your brand will grow, and you'll be known as someone who just is helpful and can be helpful to sort of any type of person in your world.
Yeah. It makes me think of this quote, God gives to the givers. Like
Mm.
where it's like you have to start by giving and then you'll everything will come to you.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and too many people don't realize that. It's like you always give first, and if you don't, it sort of harms the relationship a little bit.
Mhm.
It makes it seem transactional.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I feel like we're in a world right now, especially in dating, where things feel so transactional,
Hmm.
and that's why people are so jaded, and the men are jaded, the women are jaded,
Right.
and it's like I think just like going back to the basics of like just relationship building
Hmm.
is like I think a way to get past that.
Yeah. The core principles of like what it means to be human and
Mhm.
how you treat other people. I know. I think for dating, some of the people I know, they see their dates, something separate, and they have like
Mhm.
these tactics, and I'm like, no, they're just humans.
Mhm.
So come in a human first, and it all works out in the end.
1000%. Especially if it's going to be with somebody that's worth building a long-term relationship with.
Right.
I think with like hookup culture, that's where sometimes it gets like a little tricky and
Hmm.
like the dehumanization happens.
Totally.
Okay. So, um, and you talked about this in another podcast, but you never dated anyone who came to your events. Can you talk about why? Well,
Um,
I mean, your
yeah.
girlfriend kind of,
Yeah,
but
that
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 was a
was
friendship first.
that was, so I thought a lot about that, and I was like,
Yeah.
especially when I made the move, but it felt
Mm-hmm.
like we were friends. I mean, we were friends, and I
Mm-hmm.
made that transition in a very respectful way
Mm-hmm.
while giving her an opt out. Um, I just didn't wanna, and prior to her, I didn't date much. Like I stopped like hookup culture wasn't a
Mm-hmm.
thing for me because I stopped drinking 7 months
Okay.
ago. So I was like, I'm not going to clubs. I'm not really hooking up. I thought it felt like a waste of time.
Yeah.
Um, so I just didn't want to, and I'm very careful about what I'm building and the brand I showcase to other people. So I didn't want to be known as someone who invites people to his parties, events, and then like preys on them.
Yeah.
That's like the worst case scenario. So I was very
Totally.
clear, and I had a lot of very supportive, women in my life that helped me sort of mold my brand and get help me with the events and that kind of thing. So I'm always very intentional about how I think about that.
Yeah. No, I love the intentionality behind that. And even with me, I have singles mixers and I feel like some people are like, don't you try to like hit on guys or do you get hit on at your mixers? And I'm like, I'm very much so like business at
Hmm.
my mixers because
I like
that's
that.
not my time to date.
Right.
It's my time to host people. Okay, so there are a lot of stereotypes around tech bros.
Hmm.
Why should someone date somebody in tech?
Why should someone so tech is like tech bros, it's a wide umbrella of the types of tech bros.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are like the stereotype is like there are like the geekier like engineers who build things, and then there's like the the people on Twitter who like tweet
Mm.
things and are more cringe. So there's all these like negative sort of stereotypes of tech bros.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, if I was gonna be like a little bit more comedic about it, tech bros, they make a lot of money.
Okay.
So they're making a lot of money, and honestly, they don't really know how to spend it. Like you see all
Mm.
these people like Google and Facebook, and they make a ton of money,
Yeah.
but they still wear like these shitty sneakers or shitty hoodies. So if you date them, they'll probably spend it on you. That's
Oh,
the first thing.
that's a great I like that
Yeah,
pitch. That's really good.
yeah. And then that's probably the biggest thing. I think a lot of them are very thoughtful in the sense that they are a lot of the tech people I know are brilliant writers just because of
Mhm.
the nature of the business, and so they communicate very well, at least in a written prose format,
Okay.
and that's potential for them to communicate very well, in IRL format as
Yep.
well.
So if you're a words of affirmation girl, maybe date a
There
tech
you go.
bro.
Yes,
Yep.
yes. And then they have cool access to stuff, like I mean, it comes with the sort of the money thing, but like
Yeah.
cool like parties, events. If they wanted to, they have access to a cool social life. Um,
When you say cool social life, what do you mean? Just like going to like the best places, the best restaurants,
yeah, like as a
invites?
yeah, that's it. Like as a CEO founder, you get so much. Like all the investors take you out to dinner.
Ooh,
Um,
we love that.
yeah, like even my girlfriend was recently at a 2 day, all paid for, all inclusive investor summit.
Mm.
And it was like in Austin. It was like open bar, all these awesome things. Like you get stuff like that
They
as
roll
well.
out the red carpet for the tech bros.
They do. They
Okay.
do. Yeah.
Okay, so you said in a previous interview as well that you never put your job title on your Hinge profile.
hmm
Why was that?
It was a couple of things. Well, one, I didn't like really want to be like my identity of building the events business and being a connector and
Mhm.
an investor superseded my identity at Google. Like I didn't really tell people I worked at Google that
Mhm.
much anymore.
Yeah.
Um, but also I'm a big believer in like what you put out there is what you attract. So if I'm like, oh, I do I work at Google and and make money and stuff,
Mhm.
then I'm going to attract the people that only want that.
Yeah.
My Hinge profile, like, when I had Hinge, was more along the lines of like, hey, I'm fun and like interesting, and I do all these fun things and I have a
Mhm.
cool social life. That was the vibe I was trying to give out.
Yeah.
Not the fact that I like worked at a cool company or big
Yeah.
company.
Okay. So you didn't want somebody to date you for financial security.
hmm
Okay. And then you were in Hong Kong and China for 18 years. What is the difference between the dating culture there and the dating culture here?
Yeah, so I don't know if I have the best perspective because I was there 0 to 18.
Oh, so you
So,
were just like young. That was your
yeah,
childhood.
so dating in Shanghai, I was 14 to 18.
Mhm.
Dating there was um going to clubs. We started going to clubs at
Mm.
15
Okay.
because they don't ID there, and then you would just like meet the other high schoolers at a club and like just like
Mm.
hit on them, and that was dating. That was it.
It was, yeah, young love.
Young love.
Are your parents still in China?
They recently moved to Canada.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do they have any expectations around like cultural background of your future wife?
No, they honestly haven't spoken much about dating. They're typical Asian parents, so they're like, just focus on your career. Just
Okay.
just do that thing, and then like
Mhm.
everything else is secondary.
Yeah,
Um, so
that's hilarious.
yeah, yeah, they're very open minded.
Okay.
Yeah,
And then are there any because what's your girlfriend's background?
like her ethnic background.
Yeah.
So she's half Cuban and half Canadian.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So you guys have that Canadian common thread between the two of you?
Yes. Her mom is Canadian, I think. Yeah.
Okay, are there any like cross like cultural things that you've noticed with dating somebody from a different like ethnic background? Because a lot of my followers, they're in cross-cultural relationships, and so I
Mm,
always like to talk about it, and I've not talked about it with a man yet, so I would
yeah.
love to hear a man's
I guess
perspective.
we are cross cultural. No, we've been. It's crazy because we've been aligned. We've been so aligned in every single way.
Mhm.
I mean, we've only been together a few months or 1 month officially. But our expectations and our timelines have all been the same.
Mhm.
We communicate the same way, and I think it's because we both have weird lives.
Mhm.
Like she's on the road half of the month, so am I,
Okay.
traveling. And then she's building a company, so am I. And so I think we just like relate to each other very well, but there hasn't been any cultural tensions or cultural differences that have popped up at all.
Okay, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So you guys are both founders, you're both building companies. How do you guys have time to date each other?
So a lot of our dates are, well, first of all, I think we go on like really fun, exceptional dates.
Okay.
Um,
Like you're on The Bachelor 24/7.
we have exciting dates. So we'll take turns planning stuff. Like she'll
Okay.
plan like 6, 7 hours of stuff, complete surprise. She won't tell me
Okay.
what it is, and I'm taking her out on Friday. I have 3 things planned for her, which could be 3 separate dates.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I'm just gonna surprise you. And I think it's because we work so hard during the day. It's like we really need to like have a ton of fun
Yeah.
in the night. And like for example, we just went on this retreat, and we like co-worked most of it, or a lot of it. We just co-worked
You
because she's
guys are a
always working.
power couple.
We like to do our deep work,
That's
and
really
we
cool.
understand each other like
Yep.
yeah. So
So you co-work together and then you also go on these like exceptional, phenomenal dates. Can you give us a few examples of what some past dates look like or even what your date on Friday is gonna look like?
date on Fridays.
This won't air until after Friday.
Oh,
So you
really?
could
Okay.
even like give us a little teaser.
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay.
Because I'm really excited for that.
Okay.
So there's 3 parts of the night. She doesn't know what it is.
Okay.
Anything. I told her to dress like nice and festive and somewhat classy.
Mm-hmm.
So the first part of the night, we are going to Rolf's.
Oh,
I managed to get
okay.
a res
Yes,
there, so we're
yes.
going for dinner. She's never spent like a festive like fall or Christmas in New York City.
Okay.
So Rolf's, and she's gonna love it. We're gonna have dinner there, and then
That's
I'm
the German bar that's and restaurant that's like all
yes,
Christmas
all Christmas
decorations.
stuff.
Okay.
And then we're gonna walk nearby to the Chapel Bar. Have you heard of Chapel Bar?
No, I haven't.
It's like this speakeasy. So it's in a church, and it's
Oh.
like a bar. I'm not describing it very well, but it's like very like moody and like it's kind of hard to get into an exclusive, so that kind of vibe. And then so we'll have drinks there, and then we'll go to the final part of the night, which is how do you pronounce it? It's called Hypnotique. It's kind of like Sleep No More.
Mm-hmm.
It's their newer version.
Oh,
So
cool.
it's like this kind of club, and you stand in the middle, and there's like dancers and things all around you. Yeah.
Wow. That sounds like a really fun night.
I haven't been to any of them. I'm super excited for them.
And New York is so magical to date in. And I think so many people, they're like, oh, I don't want to be like in a relationship. But actually, when you have a partner socially,
Yeah.
you can do so many fun things like the night that you just described.
Yeah. It's way more fun, and it like compounds. I think if you just go on one-off dates, sometimes it's like I get to share this with you, and then
Mm-hmm.
now it's over.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like a one-off experience where you and your girlfriend are, like you said, you're compounding, like you're building more and more experiences together, you're
Yeah.
elevating it.
Yeah.
And I love that you guys surprise each other. So, how soon into dating her, though, did she start planning dates? Was it immediately, or was it like you courting her for a little while and then it kind of shifted?
So she's incredible at planning dates, which is one of the reasons why I'm a big fan of her. So like I think our third date in, she planned a surprise date.
Oh,
So she was
cute.
like she actually sent me a Google form,
Wait.
and she was like, what do you want to like, what kind of vibe, what kind of food? It took like a few minutes to fill out,
Mm-hmm.
and then she used that to plan a date. And what the date was, so we started off, we went to Brooklyn Bridge Park, went roller skating,
Mm-hmm.
and I hadn't done it in years, and I was like, this is so fun. And there's a view of the skyline. And then she took me into this like boat where we had oysters, like a
Mm-hmm.
boat on the river. And then after that, we went to this hotel and just like chilled at the hotel. So that was really cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And she surprised you. And I love that. Because so
Yeah.
many people are like, the girl can't plan the date. Like they're a little bit into like the old like rules or principles.
Right.
And you're like, no, like I actually found it endearing that she took initiative and she planned this magical date.
She's also very competitive.
Oh, is
And
she?
so we'll like one up each other on dates
Cute.
in a very like healthy way.
Yeah,
We'll be
yeah,
like, like this date's gonna be better. And so I think that's maybe some of the reason that drove it. Like the bar keeps getting higher every day.
You guys are going to be like jumping out of airplanes soon.
That's actually the plan in a few weeks.
Oh, really?
She's
Not surprised.
I'm going to Vegas to meet her family for Thanksgiving,
Okay.
and I think she's going to book a skydiving for us.
Oh my God, you guys are so adorable. You guys need to vlog your relationship.
I don't know how to do the vlogging thing, but
People
she
would
might do it.
follow. Like
Oh,
that
yeah?
that's like really cute.
Hmm.
Okay, so I know a lot of people are struggling with modern dating. Like, do you have any hot takes about what's going wrong with it? You know, what are the issues?
Well, one, I think dating apps are they suck for so many reasons, and I think you might agree with a few of these points, but um, meeting people is more special in both the networking and dating context when there's some form of scarcity. And
Mm,
so when you're on these apps and there's infinite swipes and you can pay to get more swipes, you just have these endless options that result in you not getting any sort of deep connection with any individual person there. So one, like dating apps are just it's tough. Uh, and then two, I think I'm not on TikTok much, but there seem to be like really strong like point of views from both the female side and the male side on dating and how someone should act. Like I know people who are like, first date, this guy needs to spend at least $300 on me.
I've
Um,
seen those TikToks recently.
yeah. And it's fair in some sense, but I'm like, okay, that's not my perspective.
Yeah.
And then the guys on the other perspective say, I don't want to spend any money on dates, coffee dates, because I'm doing so many. And so there seems to be a big gap between the male and the female perspective
Yeah.
and it's getting more extreme. My advice is just put yourself out there and be respectful, be genuine, but also like know your own boundaries and respect your own boundaries when it
Mhm.
comes to like if you like someone and they don't like you, make it clear what that relationship is and don't continue to pursue them. So just have self-respect for yourself and set those boundaries, but
On both sides.
both sides. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Because I think sometimes men get jaded and it's like, okay, like if this girl is like continuously rejecting you, but then is like, okay, I guess I'll go with you to like this fancy Michelin star restaurant for dinner
Hmm.
because you're paying. Like clearly, like you should be socially aware enough to be like, she doesn't actually like me.
Totally.
She wants food
Yeah.
and she wants like to be in this sceney place. And then vice versa with the woman. Like if a man is not even willing to buy you a coffee,
Hmm.
then he's very transactional and he's like looking to optimize and save money and that's probably not your guy either.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
I love that. I love that take. Thank you. Okay, so we are kind of coming up against time, but I do want to ask you a few more questions
Cool.
if that's okay.
Yeah, I got time.
Okay, so what is the importance of momentum in dating and following up? And this could be momentum in like like a professional relationship as well as in like a personal relationship.
Yeah, there's, I'll start on the professional front. There are like stats out there that have to do with sales and conversions. And like, the fact is, if you take too long, your conversion rate goes down
Mhm.
dramatically. In a networking context, when you meet someone and you take 4 months to follow up, they're not going to remember who you are, most likely.
Mhm.
And so you have to be rigorous with the follow ups and the timing of that. I think the same applies for dating, which is it seems like the best relation, and you probably have a lot more data points, but the best relationships, in my point of view, have started when it's a lot of interaction in a box, like a small amount of time,
Mhm.
and so it's like one date a week or like 2 dates a week for a few weeks, and that's how you build attraction and momentum. Anything beyond, if you leave for a couple of months, or if you just don't follow up, then you lose it. Right?
Yeah.
Momentum is everything in sales, and it seems like for dating as well.
Yeah. I fully agree. If there's no momentum, like you just move on.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I do have some listener questions, but actually I'm gonna edit this.
Ooh. Cool.
Before we go into the listener questions, one other thing I wanted to ask you are what are some qualities that make you a good host and what are some qualities that make you a good guest?
Hmm. Never been asked this before
Ooh,
in any of my
that makes
podcasts.
me feel very special.
Yeah. I'll go three each, just so I don't like do a brain dump.
Okay.
Good host. So one is, and Danny Mayer, from Union Square Group, like Shake Shack,
Mhm.
that's the guy. He talks about this a lot, but like the customer experience. And so a lot of these like networking events or singles events, they all they care about is promoting the brand and promoting their sponsor and making ROI and making sure the bar does well.
Mhm.
Um, it's focusing on like the person that walks through the door and making sure from the moment they get the invite or the moment they sign up to the event to the moment they leave and even after that they have an amazing experience.
Mhm.
You do that in so many different ways, so caring about their experience. The second thing is um, just being clear on what they should expect, like what an attendee should expect. I guess that kind of goes in the first one, but it's like, why are you coming here? And are we going to sell you something? Are we going to put a 20-minute panel in front of you? Just
Mhm.
being clear on those expectations. And I think the last thing is, it's just that the basics of like having a good venue,
Mhm.
having good vibes, like
Yep.
good lighting, that kind of thing. When it comes to being a guest, I'm gonna use that again. Give first.
Mhm.
Show up with the intention of wanting to make someone else feel good and giving value to them.
Mhm.
I might only have two here because my brain juice is running out.
No, that's all
Uh,
good.
the second one is like just preparing for it.
Mm.
Um, for like this is at least for the networking event, a lot of the value is outside the event. It's like before the event and after the event.
Mhm.
Now, you can't go to an event expecting to meet life changing connections just right there on the spot.
Yeah.
It's like before researching who's going to be there, who do you want to talk to, and then after, we talked about the follow up. It's
Mhm.
following up rigorously, so that you sort of get the best out of that experience.
Yeah. So the follow-up and going in with a giving attitude.
Yes.
Yeah. Because I think that being a guest is like being a good guest is so important,
Hmm.
whether it's on a one-on-one date or if it's like in a networking group setting.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do listener questions. This person said, how do you build a lasting relationship with someone when you meet so many people? And this can be from a networking standpoint.
Mm. So the best formula I've found is trust is consistency over time. Um, and so if you want to build trust with someone, it's, let's say I had the mentor I wanted to build a relationship with. Is first understanding how could I deliver value to this person,
Mm-hmm.
and then just doing that very consistently over a year, over 2 years, 3 years. In my example, of meeting like hundreds of people a month, um, I figured that the only scalable way to provide value to all these people around me is through my product. So
Mm-hmm.
really through my events, and I
Yeah.
guess you do it through your media channels.
Yeah.
It's creating really good products that people love, and that for them is a proxy of the relationship with you.
Yeah. I love that. How to get friends to set you up with others.
I've never asked. I have a lot of friends who like set me up, which I'm grateful for.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing. I think it's just being an awesome human and,
Mm-hmm.
and giving first, and then telling them that, hey, I'm single, and if you know anyone, please think of me.
Yeah.
I want something intentional and something that means something like a longer term relationship, and can you help me out? And that's
Love
it.
that. That's
Yeah.
amazing. How to connect with men IRL.
How to connect with men IRL?
Mm-hmm.
Is that like a tactical like where do I go, or is it like emotional like how do I talk to them?
I think maybe just answer both sides because I think both are juicy.
Hmm. Well, I only know from like the tech perspective.
Mm-hmm.
The reality is a lot of people would talk about how networking events are like you shouldn't like date at networking events, and I generally agree with that. But where else are you gonna meet people? Like if
Mm-hmm.
you don't drink, and I don't really want someone who, I never wanted someone who parties a crazy amount. Like bars are kind of a tough place to meet
Yeah.
type of person you want. So then it becomes like the mixers,
Yes.
and most of the mixers are networking events or like
Mm-hmm.
your events. Um, so I think it's just putting yourself out there and like building friendships.
Yeah.
And then you vet them, in Hinge you vet them through looking at all these numbers and factors. In person you vet them by like getting to know them as a friend and like meeting their friends and seeing their hobbies and honestly adding them on Instagram and seeing what their life is like. A lot of people are like, I don't like adding my dates on Instagram, but I think it gives you a lens into their life and what you should expect. So I love that. So
Okay.
getting to know them on a digital level as well.
Yeah.
And then just like showing up and putting yourself out there and being a bit vulnerable, maybe asking them out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think too, from my perspective, it's like you have to put yourself out there and you have to, like, the squeaky wheel does get the grease.
Hmm.
And so, if you're early days of a relationship with somebody or a friendship or a professional relationship, you have to just like keeping, like, hey, how are you? Like, following up, like, seeing if they wanna, hang out, whatever.
Hmm.
Obviously, there has to be mutual interest at the beginning. I'm not just saying like spam people,
Hmm.
but I think that so many people like they just get in their head and then they're like, well, I don't know if they like me. Like if they exchange numbers with you and like exchange socials with you, they probably like you
In some way.
in
Like,
some way. It
yeah.
doesn't have to be romantically. I'm talking
Right.
about even friendship.
Yeah.
And like it's just all about the follow up.
Yeah.
I have one last question. Okay. Um, how to know when you are ready to be BFGF? I tend to jump in too quick.
I would love to dig more with that person.
I
Understand. Is
know.
that going from like exclusive to labeling it? Is that going from single or like
Well, what's your trajectory? Like, how do you work? Are you kind of like the person who like does like early days of dating, then you go into the exclusive talk, then you go into the boyfriend girlfriend talk, or like how do you
that's
function?
that's how I normally do it. Yeah.
Okay, and then how do you know when you're jumping in too quick?
Um,
Have you ever jumped in too quick?
I don't think I've ever jumped in too quick.
Yeah.
It's sort of just understanding like what happens when you do jump in too quick. Like what is the downside of that? Do you realize you don't? No, I'm reading between the lines and I'm thinking they jumped in too quick and they
Mhm.
realized they didn't like that person.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm getting from that.
Mhm.
Um, or maybe it's the other way around, but if it was, they wouldn't be asking that. So I think it's,
Right.
if you're jumping in too quick and you realize you don't actually like this person, then you need to do one of two things. Like, one, understand your core values and what you're looking for. Like, create a list and write everything you're looking for,
Yeah.
and have like non-negotiables. And then two, spend a bit more time, like I call it tinkering, but exploring, and maybe that's like dating around
Yeah.
to learn about yourself. But those seem to be like the tactical ways.
Yeah, and from my perspective too, it's like you can always break up just because you
Yeah,
jumped into a relationship too quickly. Like you can always change your mind. You can wake up every day and be a different person if you choose to be. So
totally.
again, like don't be so afraid of commitment that you never get into anything because how else are you going to learn about what you do and don't like?
Yeah,
Sometimes you just have to jump into things.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even like me in social media. I just full sent it and like it worked out, but had I just thought about it and never actually done it,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be here today.
Was that like the start of how, was that how you started? Like
With
the,
with my challenge,
yeah.
so I had been on TikTok before and I never did anything on Instagram. And then I was like, I actually want to grow my Instagram. And then I just like did it. And it was like a little embarrassing because I had 80 followers,
Yeah.
but I didn't care. I was like, whatever. And then it went viral.
Nice. And
So
now
I was
you
like,
got that. You got this like long form,
mm-hmm.
and then you got the events.
Yep.
Yeah, you're
And my
that's awesome.
matchmaking business now.
Oh, you have a matchmaking
Yeah,
business.
and we're doing digital
Okay.
courses and we're
Damn.
doing what else are we doing? We're doing digital courses and then a
Hmm.
journal's coming out really soon as well.
What's a journal?
It's a dating journal.
Oh, so it's like a product.
Yes.
Would you do merch? Do you have merch already?
We want to do merch.
That's so
Yeah.
cool.
So
Okay.
it's slowly building, but again,
Yeah.
it's all started with one idea, but it's again the momentum. It's,
Yeah.
pivoting and taking opportunities. So, but it's not about me. Before we go, Andrew, thank you so much. You were a phenomenal guest. I really love your perspective and I appreciate you coming today. But my last question is, what is your biggest piece or your best piece of relationship and dating advice?
Best piece of relationship and dating advice. It's got to be what I said in the beginning, which is, a lot of the men in my network, especially the younger men,
Mm-hmm.
will spend a lot of their time chasing and trying to like woo, and trying to like spending a lot of money that, quite frankly, they can't afford.
Yeah.
Um, and I think of it as like, stop trying to chase,
Yeah.
instead, attract, and like build the life you want. Focus on your career at first, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Build an awesome life, be financially very independent, and then use that to not use the financial situation, but like use your awesome life, to bring the people you want into your life, and that includes, women or men or whatever you're attracted to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Where can people find you? When's your next mixer?
Next event, actually don't know when it is. Oh, there's the Junto Club
Mm-hmm.
on the 30th, November
Okay.
30th, and then there's a large mixer on the 29th, which is I think the one you went to, which is like 1,000 people. That one's like less
That
curated.
one was really fun. By
Oh, it
the
was
way,
fun?
we
Oh,
met
cool.
so many people.
Cool.
I highly recommend it to everyone. You have to go check out these mixers.
Mm.
And by the way, like I was there because obviously I'm in the startup space myself. I am a founder, but also so I like to, connect with people in tech. But also like from a dating perspective, I did give my number to some people.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Mhm.
awesome.
Mhm.
Yeah, that one was really packed.
It
So I'm
was.
like, maybe I filled it with too many people. Um, but yeah, the next ones will be really good. You can follow me at Andrew's Mixers on Instagram, and then I have a website,
Mhm.
andrewsmixers.com. So just check me out there.
Okay, I'm so excited to watch your career. I think you're going to keep doing big things. Congratulations again on all of your
Thank you.
successes, and we'll keep watching your story.
Sounds good.
Okay,
Thanks for having
thanks,
me.
Andrew. Bye.